Welcome to the third meeting of the Corporate Services Committee, this January 20th, 2020. Before we start out, I'd like to say that the City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternative formats and communications support for council, standing or advisory committees, meetings, and information upon request. To make a request for any city service, please contact accessibility@london.ca or call 519-661-2489, extension 2425. To make a request specific to this meeting, contact csc@london.ca. So, call the meeting to order and look to my colleagues for disclosures of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, let's move on to the consent items. So we have 8 items here this afternoon. Are there any that the committee would like pulled for discussion? Okay, well then I'll ask the clerk to prepare a motion to approve the consent items 2.1 through 2.8. And I'll look to the committee for comments on these items. Mr. Mayor.
Happy to move, Chair.
Okay, and so that consent is moved by the mayor, seconded by Councillor Morgan. And at this point, I'll look for comments. Councillor Morgan.
Yes, I didn't need to pull them because I just want to make a couple of comments about some of the agenda items. First, to the business improvement area representatives who are here, certainly don't take us passing all of your proposed budgets as consent as a negative. It's actually quite a positive. I think there's great work being done by our BAs across the city. These are very responsible budgets that have been well articulated in the reports. I know, having sat on a BIA, all of the behind the scenes work that goes into the budgets. I know other colleagues here have sat or sit on BIAs as well. And so we certainly appreciate the work that you're doing. I know a number of the BIA representatives are in the gallery here today, so thank you for the work that you do and continue to do, and thank you for putting together very comprehensive documents for council's consideration, and I'm certainly happy to be the seconder on this particular motion. On another item on in the consent agenda, the assessment growth, certainly not quite as high as we were in previous years, but I still think good news on the assessment growth side. The assessment growth is still quite robust and will allow for us to have the funds available to support a growing city. I look forward to seeing the business cases that the treasurer approves at the appropriate time down the road to allocate the assessment growth. But glad to see the number is remaining healthy. I also look forward to the item in the report that refers to our discussion about the future tax policy report, which will be a very important document for this particular council as we set our tax ratio and tax policy for the next little while. And I think we'll have a great discussion as a committee, and for anybody who's interested in how much tax they pay, that will certainly be a very important discussion to them, as it will articulate how we divide taxes across the different ratios and how we can account for, over time, differences in the way that property is appreciating across the different tax classes. So I look forward to that discussion as well. And thanks to our staff for the great work on that report. Those are the only comments I had on the consent items, and I appreciate the time.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to make a comment on 2.8, the Memorandum of Understanding between NAMRA and Friendship Centre and the City of London. I was really pleased to see this come forward. I know in the past, developing relationships for the City of London is important with the Indigenous community, and this is a great start to strengthening that relationship. I do have a quick question through you, Madam Chair, to staff, understanding that the Memorandum of Understanding is about meeting with NAMRA biannually. I'd like to just sort of speak or ask a question around, if a situation does arise, how would that have to wait, or how would we proceed?
Madam Livingston.
Thank you, and through the chair, a number of the service areas have existing working relationships with NAMR, and of course, those are regular conversations that would happen all the time. If there are other issues at kind of a NAMR into city administratively that needed to come up, we would meet. This just gives us the kind of minimal base structure, a symbolic demonstration of our commitment to work together. So of course we would just meet as we needed to, in addition to the twice a year expected discussions.
Thank you for that. It's good to know that our service departments are meeting with them on a regular basis as well with the centers. So really pleased to see this come forward. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Helmer.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment briefly on the assessment growth report. I think Councillor Morgan may have perhaps undersold the extent of the assessment growth. As far as I can count, last year was the 4th highest, and this is the 5th highest in the last 20 years. So, I mean, it's quite high. But really, there's only 3 years in the past 20 that have been higher than what we've been seeing most recently. I know that that's not necessarily something we can rely on, you know, next year and the year after, but I think it is a good sign that there's a lot of development activity in the city, and a lot of the kind of development that we want to be seeing happening. A lot of apartment buildings going up in the core. So I just want to comment on that. I do think it's going to be helpful in accommodating the cost of growth. It's certainly a lot more easy to work with than it was when we had sub 1% assessment growth in one previous year. I remember that one. That was not the greatest year. And I do think it's going to help a little bit as we're working our way through accommodating the cost of growth.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call to question.
Closing the vote, the motion is passed 6-0.
There are no scheduled items or items for direction, so we'll go to deferred matters list and additional businesses, and we have 5.1 added application issuance of proclamation for the London Black History, for the London Black History Month 2020. Do we have a mover or a seconder? Moved by Councillor Van Holst, seconded by Mayor Ed Holder. Any comments or questions?
So do we need a receipt and granting? Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm happy to move receipt of the recommendation, and also move that the proclamation be granted for Black History Month.
I think we'll draft a motion and we'll read it before we vote on it.
So, Madam Chair, I'm just looking again at the proclamation request form, and maybe with some clarification from our staff. Looks like there may have been an error in here, in the fourth section where it says proclamation type. It seems like the selection should be day, week, or month. In this case, it would be the month of February. But in that section, it says Monday, January 28th, 2020, which was the date proclamation required. It seemed to be, that's the same as the second section. So I'm wondering if we need to amend this form in order to have it produce the desired result.
Ms. Saunders, would you like to?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, I did raise that issue with the organization and recommended that they may wish to amend that section of the application. However, I didn't receive the amended application in time to get this on the added agenda.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. This motion is worded, seems like it will achieve the desired result. So I'll just confirm that I'm happy to move this.
I'm just gonna read what we've attempted to put here. That eBay noted that on the application under the proclamation policy to recognize and proclaim Black History Month on February 1st, 2020 to February 29th of 2020. And then it just kind of gives a small explanation of what the proclamation is and talks about how every February Canadians are invited to participate in Black History Month festivities, events that honor the legacy of Black Canadians of past and present. This year, the London Black History Month Coordinating Committee has themed Our Community, Our Strength, and invite all Londoners to participate and learn through many activities that will be happening throughout the month of February, and happy Black History Month. If the mover is okay with the language, we can update it. Okay. And the seconder? Is the seconder still okay with the language? Thank you. Any comments or questions regarding this motion? Councillor Morgan.
First off, I want to say that I think this is great that the proclamation has come forward, and I want to thank the committee for putting the application together. As this is the first one we've had, I know that the policy says we'd like this to align with our strategic plan. We'd like to get some information about the event, and the attached letters and information I think are exactly what we would like to see to be able to make decisions on proclamations. So I think that they've done a great job of putting together the application and set the stage for others who will be making or requesting proclamations to include that relevant information. I know in the past on on requests, when we were back into requests for special events for municipal significance. One of the challenges we always had was getting the information that we actually needed to actually make the proclamation, and in this case, or make that decision. But in this case, with the first proclamation, it's great to have all of that really important information. It looks like an exciting month of events, and I look forward to participating in a number of them.
Any other comments or questions? I'd like to just make comments as the chair. I'd like to thank the staff that helped us get through this because it was a lot of back and forth. It was a short time, and thank you for your patience, and thank you for helping us get through this, and I'm sure the community is also very thankful. And we'll call to question.
Closing the vote, the motion's passed 6-0.
Now we will move into our confidential section of the meeting. Can we get a mover and seconder? Councillor Hopkins, seconded by Councillor Van Holst, and we'll call to question, and we will adjourn from committee room 3.
Closing the vote, the motion's passed 6-0.